idea. This isn't going to be our first like cut. So right here, this is the spot where you're going to want to go.
Okay.
And that's going to be where your head curves, and you're going to be creating that roundness right there in that first cut.
That's because everybody's moving.
I know. It's just easier.
And with this, it's a little bit time consuming with smaller parts, but you're going to want to take smaller parts because if you take bigger, then that's more of a maybe incident that's going to like create an issue. Holes.
You have to like blend more at the end? Maybe?
Yes.
So it's working harder, kind of.
Yeah.
You're doing like an inverted V for the part?
Yeah, the first initials aren't going to be super like slanted because right now we're just taking more length off, and then once we get past this spot, we're going to be stacking it more at an angle like this, and then we'll be working back, pulling the hair back and cutting it to where when it falls forward you get that angle. So I'm not going to go like extremely like buzz short with this one so that I can show you guys with working with the hair and styling it and everything. All right, so we'll probably make it our first cut about right here. And then these will be straight cuts just to get the length right now.
And when their head is tilted down like that, right? That's also gonna give it the A-line.
Yeah, I usually, a lot of times, like if you look up YouTube or something like that, they'll have the models and they'll have the models tilted the whole time.
But
I'm not gonna have her tilted the whole time because that's not realistic. You're not gonna have your client like this the whole time. But I mean, in a salon, that's the only way. I mean, that's the only way you're gonna get the angle. You're gonna have them right here, facing like kind of tilted down, so that you're able to get that.
Mine back up like around like here.
Yeah.
I have them put their head up, like back up. Is that right?
For the
for the A-line. You know what I'm saying? Like keeping their head tilted, like looking down, until I get to about right there where I'm gonna start doing the sides, and then I have them lift it up.
If you work just right here, like I said, like at the about like at the nape of your neck, right here, having them tilted down, then you're able to get that. But I mean, it's personal preference if you work better, because it's just more so you have to like move your arms.
Yeah.
I cut just with them sitting it up.
As long as you make as long as you over direct and everything correctly, then they shouldn't have to have their head tilted down. A little
Yeah.
bit, right?
All right.
So after you make your initial cut, you start layering already?
Yeah, that's where I'm gonna go. This is my initial length right here, and then we're gonna work and make it a little bit shorter, and then work up.
Okay.
What do you need?
So I might need to spray her a little bit. And this is a cut where you want, really conditioned and really wet hair, because working with it like this, like I said, you're gonna have a traveling guideline, so it's always easier to have it extremely easy to work with. So the first cut, and I cut with my fingers down. Around here, I'll cut with my fingers up, but on this side, I'll cut with my fingers down. You can move your arms that way. It doesn't really matter the position of your hand, up or down. It's just comfort, and if you're more comfortable, then the better the cut's gonna be. So the first cut right here down the middle is gonna be straight up. Yes. And then once you make your initial cut, then right here, you're gonna start working back, even at this angle. So right here, now that we have, you see the guideline right here? So we're gonna start from there and cut. Up and down. And with this cut, you want to make it right the first time with down here, but we're gonna, once we dry her, it's better to have like pointy shears like your dry cut or anything, because we're gonna go around and clean it up, because a lot of the times you'll get, I mean, once you cut it, you'll find the hole, and I'm sure you guys have, I mean, it's like a patch, and then a lot of people get worried that you've created a hole. And this is a lot of a cut, like if you make it right, it's a lot more dry cutting and creating that look after the initial cut, and then you trim it all up. And so as you move up, your sections are gonna get more angled so that you can create that stack, because you wanna make it as much right in the middle and everything is brought to that point so that you create that flow all the way down.
How big are you?
Right here. I haven't worked with a mannequin head in forever, so I'm not used to this movement right here.
Will it help? Do it.
I think it's just on here.
Maybe that head isn't for that.
Yeah.
That mannequin isn't for that
So right here you see your traveling guideline. So you're gonna cut up. And then you're cutting with the angle. Every section that you cut, you're gonna cut with the angle right here.
Are you directing back to the center with
Yeah,
that?
right now
that
it's
side?
not as much. Once I get probably closer to here, you'll see me pulling it back more.
Okay.
But right now we're following this section and then pulling it back to the middle. And then you have your guideline right here. And then you're still, I always use my hand to stabilize. So I'm pulling it back. When I pull my part right here, as I get more to the side, I'll grab it and then I'll pull it back and then I can see my traveling guideline. I don't know if you guys can see, but right at my fingertips, I pull it back, and then I'll rest my hand so it's sturdy, and then I have my guideline, so I know where I'm supposed to be at.
And you're only over directing to the center, back to
Yes.
the center, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you were to over direct it more, is that going to give it more of a line look? Is it going to be like a?
I mean, it'll probably be a little bit. The more you direct it this way, then the longer it's gonna be.
Okay, the longer it's
So-
going to be, and it's going to be shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was, but then
It's basically, and I mean, until you get up to our parts right here, it's the same thing. You're just taking the small little diagonal parts and then just pulling it back and working it back. I'm actually gonna move her out now. Now you can keep your client down. Realistically, I mean, it's gonna be really uncomfortable for them. So I don't ever cut with their head down all the way, just so I can work that. And like I said, once we get up here, then we're gonna cut more down here with a dry cut. And then always right down the middle, that's gonna be our only non-horizontal cut right here, right down the middle.
Are you changing your elevation as you work up?
Yeah, as you work up, because you're gonna be cutting like down, and then you're gonna start pulling it up, and you'll pull it back this way and still cut at an angle. Because the more you cut this way, this is creating the elevation right here. Yeah.
I'm about to jack up a mannequin tonight.
I'm not the only one that can now.
Who ready?
Like, you can't be that hard for a while.
And it's intimidating. The more you get to practice on real hair, I mean, real hair cuts way better than a mannequin hair.
We'll have this video in case we want to buy a few more mannequins. Direct.
Amazon 12-pack of mannequin heads.
Straight from China.
Literally.
Keep on coming.
It'll take 2 months.
Really
Yeah, literally 2 months. Bye.
What's the haircut?
Now this side I will, like, cause this side I always have my wrist to cut on, and this side I'm always a little bit more careful because I don't want to over direct any more than this side. So I always double check, cause this side is usually my longer side because I don't have my support right there. So I always go back and double check once I'm done before I move on to the top part.
Could you fix it after you're done if you like would notice like, oh crap, that side's really long?
Yeah.
It
well,
would just be more work.
Yeah, and I'll show you the way I do it before I finish, before the dry cut, is I'll work back, and then the way you check it is you pull them forward and meet it right in the middle and see your sides meeting up evenly. Like I said, the smaller the sections, especially once you get up here, the more precise your cut is going to be. If you take a big section and take a chunk out on this side where you shouldn't be, then you're going to have a little bit more of an issue. Yeah.
It looks pretty. That's what happened to a couple of my makeup heads. I went crazy with the texturizing shears.
Cut holes.
No, it didn't have holes. It was just it was like a pixie.
My girl might be lucky if she still got hair after me.
Jarvis might be teaching me that fade today.
Yeah, literally. Might learn how to barber tonight.
And then once I get up to this part, I always usually try to use my hand and move it this way, because now once we're up here, we're going to create that bubble almost. We have the stack, and then now we're going to cover it with this elevation, and that the weight right here is going to be your line, and then we'll fix it. This is more, I typically like to do it all of my stacking wet and then go through and fix it, because once you finish, you're gonna have that heavy line, and I'll go through with shear, like the thinning shears, and even it up so that it blends really nicely.
You were quick with those scissors.
You get a knuckle.
Right across the top.
Smiling, Band-Aid.
Faye. Laughing because it's true. We're gonna hear a lot of those tonight.
And this is where I'll show you right here. Now that I have my traveling guideline, with it moving up and down, sometimes you'll have that, and it's a good spot because we're right here, and then you can have your guideline, and I see right there where it got a little bit longer. Like I said, usually this is my longer side. So having that traveling guideline and the hair really wet and easy to work with will allow you to see those so that you can fix it while you're cutting then.
You're still bringing it back to the middle, right?
I am. And we're still angling it, like you're bringing it back and angling it right here. So down here on this side, I'm angling it, pulling it back and using this as my reference, where now, which is why this side's typically my longer side before I get done, is because I'm bringing it down and I'm using my pinky to try to hold it up as my support right there. And so this will be our final cut before we move to the sides. Because once you get to the sides, you'll start to cut it a little bit different because you're not wanting to pull it straight back from right here. You're gonna wanna cut, I typically like to cut on the part. A lot of times your textbook will tell you to cut, you know, on the center part and then work from there. This cut I usually really like to work on the part, so I'll move it up once it gets up front, up to here. I'll keep it, you know, straight back, and then right here I'll start to cut on the part and pull it, comb it down and pull it back.
Based on where
Mhm.
you
The
have that
percent.
part.
Yeah,
Okay.
because if you cut it on a center part right here, and there are parts over here, you're gonna end up with a really thin, probably shorter side right here.
Okay.
And so up here, we're gonna pull it back and angle it still, and you see your traveling guideline right there. And then we'll start making the diagonal sections.
She does move up.
Yeah. Once you start working with normal real heads, then it's a lot easier.
Until they fall asleep on you.
And then once I get closer to the ear, I always do like to, instead of pulling it up, I like to just kind of pull it down and over to the center. Because then, I mean, I'd rather have more hair to work with than cut it off.
Spray.
And again, here's my long side right here, and then in the middle I can see my traveling guideline. I don't know if it's normal to cut that way. I know this side's always my long side, but as I've, you know, cut more, I know this side I'll have that one middle part that I can go by with my guideline. And see right around here, like I was showing them, right when I get to the ear, I'll kind of pull it down into the center right here. And that's the base right here, so you can kind of see where we're going with the stack right here. And like I said, it's a little bit longer for the sake of kind of more styling it. But once we dry it, we're gonna trim it up a little bit and then go down. But now we'll start working this section. And this section, I usually work.
Straight.
I'll work little bit and little bit, because like I said, I'm not gonna be taking it back. So I'll take these little sections right here and then pull it back. And I'll show you guys on that side too.
Are you diagonaling to the front?
Yeah, right here. Because then you pull it back, you cut it, and then it's gonna create that flow right there.
And give you that longer hair on top.
Yeah. And I'll show you on this side too. So now I have a straight part, and I'm going from that line, and I'm gonna work it this way. A little bit of a, kind of like a pizza slice.
But you can already really see how even wet, how it's like gonna have that really.
And these sides, I don't really, because I'm already angling it and I'm working, pulling it back. I'll usually have this, and so I'll usually take my part just kind of straight, because that's how it's gonna lay. So I'm not gonna pull it from this side, because it's not gonna lay at an angle. It's gonna be down.
Oh, that I don't make it. Maybe
It'll make it more
7.
straight and choppy.
Okay.
So if you're cutting it straight the way it's gonna lay and pulling it back at that angle, when you pull it right here, it's not gonna be straight.
It would be like heavy and blunt.
Yeah. Right around the ears, that's where I usually like to go lower. Like I said, I can cut more hair off, and I can't add it on. Thank you.
So you section it in the pizza slides, but you're now going straight
Mhm.
down
Yeah,
to pull the pieces. Okay.
because that's the way I'm gonna work with it like this. When I pull it right here, it's gonna go straight, and then I know right here, I'll usually start about right here and pull it straight again.
Okay.
And I usually leave right around here, right around the face for the last, because typically, I mean, you can use it if someone wants it angled around their face still. So usually I wait to cut this part to kind of see my guideline on where I'm gonna go, because I don't wanna start angling it right here. It's gonna be shorter or longer, or, cause then we'll create that hole up front.
With those clips.
All right, and again, this side, now I'm gonna start just pulling it straight back, all the way.
Like to where the hair would lay.
Mm-hmm.
And you did a straight part this
I did a straight part,
in front of the ear.
yeah. Cause this side is gonna be, right around here is like the framing of your face, so you wanna leave that for last, so that you can see how the cut's laying, and where to go from there.
And is that where you do like client preference?
Yes. I'll show you guys right here. She's mobile. So right here, this is where I'll leave this out, right here. Okay.
You didn't want it to be super
and this is where sometimes when it lays, typically you might have a hole, but if you're cutting by these angles and straight, typically you won't have that hole to freak out about. Yeah. Then you're thinking like, what the crap did I just do to this person's hair? Alright, and then right before I take this part the last part, right around the face, just pull it all back and down. And then cut it. And see how cutting with the straight parts right here, it doesn't create as much of a hole, like that disconnect right here, right at the ear, as it usually would if you were to cut it right here and cut it at an angle, because you're cutting where the hair lays.
So you would have to compensate for where like the hair goes up because of the ear.
Yeah, that's why I like to like pull it from a straight part and then pull it back, because you're pulling it back on that ear, so it has the ear right there where it's gonna lay anyways. Yeah, that's
Okay,
my
you
longer
just-
side. That's what I was saying. It's my longer side. And then that's when we'll go back. I'll make my final cut, and then we'll go back and pull it forward and even it up. And once we dry her, we'll shorten her up and then stack her a little bit more. So now that I'm at this, the final cut, I'll just bring it down right here and kind of go with that angle, because we're going to be angling it more once we go back, just so I get that more of that length gone. And I'll come back right here and start creating that angle and start working it back.
I think I've been trying to do mine way too hard.
Way too hard.
Like working from working one side and then the other side.
Yeah. No, see, that's what I always have a longer side, especially with this cut. And then once you're done, you pull it forward and then you just even it up. Because if you cut and you're trying to make it even through the cut, then you're going to end up with a shorter cut than you initially wanted.
And I see if you work one side and then the other side, like you risk like losing your elevation or doing something that your angle differently.
Yeah. Alright, so we're done with the initial cut. Right now she's a little bit long. And then right here, once you come back through, see, this is my long side, so I usually typically have to clean this side up a little bit more.
We'll probably all have a long side, right?
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, I
Depending on
cut
which way
with
you
my
cut.
hand on the head, depending on how short the hair is.
Do all bobs like start high like that in the back? I've always had like been familiar more with.
You don't have to. I mean, if you're not creating a stack, you can cut. It's all depending on like your angle. So if you didn't want it to, like I said, we're gonna cut this up. So if you wanted it all to be right here, you can cut it at an angle right here, and then just all bring it back to here to where that weight just goes to that spot. Because that's what you're doing when you're angling it and keeping it like at 90 degrees right here, is you're creating that weight in that spot where you want the stack. Okay, so this is the initial cut. You can kind of see through there. And then I really like layers. So I mean, it's client preference, but usually I'll go through before I dry her and even her out completely. I'll go through right here at the top spot right at the back of the ears. And kind of angle it right this way. Yeah, this part is just kind of like eliminating right the front areas right above the ear, and I just will comb it back, and you can kind of see that weight right here that we've created, and I'll go through, and these don't really have to be like certain parts or anything, you just kind of float through and you can see that's where your weight and your little stragglers are going to be. So I typically just kind of trim that up to create that weight right there. And these are just going to be straight parts right here, and pull them straight up. And then you'll be using that traveling guideline right there to kind of angle it up and make it stack more.
It's a whole lot to remember.
It's alright, we got video.
YouTube videos.
We should have done that. Everybody get your mannequin. Do this. Stop.
Okay. So now she's cut, and I'll dry her. And
Do you have a plug or do you need to move her over there?
I don't know where it is.
No, there's plugs right there.
There's one under the water fountain over there. I saw in the flyer.
I don't know where anything is in here, so.
There's one back there, but she's gonna have to cut the power back on because we got emergency.
Is that gonna?
I don't know.
Okay, that's gonna.
I mean, we'll have to.
I can move her.
No matter where we go.
Yeah.